But I think it's a part of all growing up, you had to go through those awkward transitions and, like, really, like, test, everything because I feel like that's, like, very chunibyo, right? Ideology, where it's just like, "Yeah, I'm this, and I'm cool, and I'm, like, mysterious,"
You
and
know, on the
all
flip
these
side of
strange
that, I kind of, like, miss the confidence I had back then to, like, be that way, like, just to be unabashedly just do that.
shamelessly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah!
yeah. Yeah,
Like, where
before
did that
society
go?
kicks you and try to, like, reform you to be a certain way, we were just, like, shamelessly weaves,
We're like, "This is
shamelessly
who we are, this is what we
emo.
like, who cares? Not me!" Hi everyone, and welcome back to another week of Josei Junkies. We're gonna be talking about some more anime today. I'm ISO.
And I'm Kane. Thanks for joining us today.
Yay! So,
So what's new?
dude, I was scrolling Twitter, and I don't know because I don't think you use Twitter as much, but like I've been scrolling Twitter, and have you ever had to like be in public when you scroll it, and then you see like something NSFW just like kind of
Is it
pops
something
up?
embarrassing?
I mean, embarrassing is subjective, right? Like for me, it's just like if you're out in public, I guess since I kind of been, I don't want to say almost desensitized to it. I'm so used to seeing it that I don't think about it until I'm in public and realize, wow, you don't want people looking over your shoulder and seeing that there's like basically naked people on your screen or something very NSFW.
Okay, but what are you what are you looking at?
It's not that I'm like looking at it. It's just like I follow like artists and stuff and fans, and a lot of times they do fan art, and a lot of it is like their ships and their fantasies or whatever they are into, which is fine because like I'm into it too. That's why I'm following them.
Mhm.
Where it's they're in questionable positions or questionable amount of clothes of couples of all
Ooh,
sorts.
scandalous.
Yeah. And a lot of the times it's like a lot of BL ships, especially because I feel like more since that isn't canon, a lot of people fans end up drawing that instead because it's like since it isn't real, they can only draw it to have it, since it doesn't exist officially.
Mhm. I mean, bless the fans because we get some really beautiful art and
Truly.
content.
Dude, that's like my favorite part of cons is like artist alley because you get all the fans doing the art that you will never ever see anywhere else.
So true. I saw the, recent what is it, from Star Ember? The official art of, Heaven's Official's Blessing, and they have, like, this set of, like, art book that you can buy, and it comes with, like, tarot cards and a bookmark and, like, all of these, like, extra goods. It's so freaking pretty and so cheap for what the amount is. Like, I think it's, like, $70, and some art books are $70 by itself.
Wait, it's just the
It's
art
so
book,
pretty.
not the translation, right?
No, no, so yeah, it's the art book, a bunch of art cards, tarot cards,
Wait,
like,
what
a
what
lot of goodies,
what art is
posters.
in it? Is it like official art or like manga
Yeah,
art or
official.
is it like from like what so remember how we talked about before it was like the manhwa has like the super ethereal and then the like anime is more cutesy. Like what type
Mhm.
of art is in there then?
It's Star Ember, so the official artist of the
Oh, okay, okay,
illustrator
okay.
yeah, of the manhwa.
Okay, okay, okay. So it's probably more ethereal. Oh, dude, that's so nice. That's like the prettiest art. Oh, I want it.
I know, and it's, like it's dark. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's not, like, dark and, like, creepy and gothic, but it's just a very dark color scheme,
Yeah,
but it's so pretty,
like
and I'm
very
like,
red
"Oh
and
my god."
black. Very,
Yeah,
very
I
red.
think it's sold in, like, Kinokuniya, and I think for a while, if you bought it, you get, like, an extra freebie or something like that, but I think it's sold out really quickly because I couldn't find it in my
Oh
Kinokuniya.
man, I can imagine. I feel like that would sell it as soon as it released with how strong the fan base is for it.
Yeah, there's so many figures and Nendoroids of them too, so I think the fan base of the BLs, Danmei, like, fujoshi is quite large.
And it's really sad too though, because I'm like, the fan base is so strong, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people have a really negative view of the fan base because it's so strong, or I guess they come off
Mhm.
very strong. But I don't know, it goes both
It's
ways.
called passion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's so weird
It's
because
called passion.
passion is attractive. Like I love people who are passionate about things that they love. Like even if you're not into it, and even if you don't understand it, like just seeing them talk about it is so like nice. Like it makes me like I just want to sit there and listen to them and like learn something.
Yeah, as long as it's not, like, super problematic, I'm like, "Yo, go for it," you know?
Yeah, yeah. When it's like problematic misinformation, then you kind of want to be like, wait a minute, can we talk about this? But like when they're just passionate or they have like a lot of info and they've done all this research, like man, I mean BL is one of them, but like it literally could be about anything. It could be about like cars, it could be about like I don't know, skateboarding, like any passion you have. It's just it's so nice to hear people who are passionate about things.
I mean, isn't that the word otaku in itself? Like, there are
Yeah,
train otakus, and there are, like, obviously anime otakus and, nail art otakus.
yeah, but it's so sad because otaku has such a negative okay, at least in Japan, it has a very negative connotation to it, right? Where
Mhm,
it's seen as like I guess in America we say otaku, we automatically assume anime because it's a Japanese term, but it's not
mhm,
just anime. Like otaku just means like like you said, you're really passionate about something. So yeah, you
mhm.
can have like train otakus or like any kind of otaku, but in Japan it's like looked down upon like to be an otaku. I guess it's kind of like how in America we used to I say used to because I feel like it's become much more acceptable and almost even popular now to be like a nerd, you know? How the movies used to
Yeah,
be like,
like a geek
yeah, yeah,
before, now it's like a cool thing because it's
yeah,
become a little bit more mainstream. Even I mean, academia, like the dress style, like the
yeah.
clothing style. It's like academia, like, oh, you're nerdy and you're geeky, you spend all your time in the library. That's like a cool thing now, where before, wearing
I
glasses
mean, I
and
don't know if it's a
ties.
cool thing now, but like more acceptable. I still think people want you to be out and about, but I feel like people are more open about being just like, oh yeah, I sit at home. I don't go outside. Maybe that's like a product of just our generation though, with like how much more proliferated technology has been where it allows us to stay inside and not have to go out, but yet still be in
Yeah.
contact with people or like be social, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I remember back when, I would say, "Oh, I'm an otaku," when I was in Japan. People are like, "Oh, that's bad," like, "Why are you like?" And then, because they would look at me and like, "Oh, that doesn't translate. You don't look like the typical idea of what they think is an otaku, which is like chubby and sweaty and like
Oh,
glasses and greasy hair. Like that's like the stereotype." And
yeah.
so that was when I realized, I was like, "Yeah, it's not the same word." I guess it's for here, it would be like weeaboo, but I feel like now that we say, like, weebs, it's like we've taken it back. We've taken the
Yeah,
term
we've
back to
reclaimed the
not
term.
being so de
I
derogatory.
think it's like almost I don't even know. I guess we reclaimed it, but it's also like I feel like if you say weeaboo, it's still like if you we differentiate between weeb and weeaboo, whereas weeaboo I feel like still has like a negative connotation, and weeb is
Mhm.
the more endearing connotation, if that makes sense.
Ah, I see, yeah, yeah. I guess that's true, like, if you're called a weeaboo. I think of it just as transition in, like, your maturity as an anime fan. Like, I think when you first start out, like, most people are weeaboos, like, in middle
Mm.
school, like, high
Mm.
school, we're, like, so passionate about it, and it's become everything we consume, and, like, I think weeaboos in the beginning is just like, "Wow, I want to be everything anime, so I want an anime name. I want an anime run, like a Naruto run." And then, like, I wanna be everything anime. Once you realize, okay, well, looking at the deeper side of anime and, like, not relating everything is Japan, everything is anime, having a more realistic aspect, then I guess you evolve into, like, a weeb
I think it's
or
also
something like that.
I think it's like socialization too, and just being able to meet more like-minded people helps you like socialize and understand what's okay and what's not. But also, like as you said before, it's like a lot of it was middle school and high school, right? And that's like the
Mhm.
age where you're finding yourself and finding what you like and who you are as a person. So you kind of like adapt to whatever you do like rather than like you adapt in the sense that you take it on rather than take it as part of yourself. Like you make it
Mhm.
yourself. And the thing
Yeah,
is
like the emo kids, emo hair,
yeah,
like
like
that.
and people are so much more complicated than one thing. It's like you can call someone like the anime kid, right? Or the weeb kid, but like they're more than that. Like maybe they like skateboarding, maybe they like to like listen to music or like a different type of maybe they like classical music. Like there's so many different facets to people that when you put them in one label, it can be very jarring to them as a person because they don't even know who they are as themselves. Like I didn't know who I was as myself, and I hated my middle school self. Like I think most of us hate our middle school
Cringe, right?
selves. Yeah, like you just think about it, you're like, man, let's not remember that.
But I think it's a part of all growing up, you had to go through those awkward transitions and, like, really, like, test, everything because I feel like that's, like, very chunibyo, right? Ideology, where it's just like, "Yeah, I'm this, and I'm cool, and I'm, like, mysterious,"
You
and
know, on the
all
flip
these
side of
strange
that, I kind of, like, miss the confidence I had back then to, like, be that way, like, just be unabashedly just do that.
shamelessly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah!
yeah. Yeah,
Like, where
before
did that
society
go?
kicks you and try to, like, reform you to be a certain way, we were just, like, shamelessly weebs,
We're like, "This is
shamelessly
who we are, this is what we
emo.
like, who cares? Not me!" And then, like, the whole,
Exactly.
like, awkward, like, fashion of, like, trying to figure out what you like to wear and how you like to
Oh
look.
my god.
Oh,
Like, black and white stripes and fishnets and choker.
dude, I remember I made these, like, I don't know what you call it, they're like the hand covers, like, the ones you put
Yeah,
over
the
your
arm
hand.
warmers.
Yeah, they were like arm warmers, but you would have, like, your fingers like, my thumb would stick through it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
didn't I couldn't really buy clothes on my own, like, I just had what my parents got me, so I got this pair of sweats that I never wore, and I got this needle and, like, hand sewed, this really, really, like, poorly made from my sweatpants that I cut up as, like, my hand warmers, and I thought they were the coolest thing. I used to wear them with everything, and now I look at it, I'm like, "Oh god, I look so try hard, please no."
Oh my god, wait, if they're sweats, does that mean they have, like, a little band at the bottom, so you look like you have, like, Sasuke's arm warmers?
No, they
Do you
didn't
know what
have
I
the
mean?
band. They were like they
Oh,
weren't
okay.
banded sweats, they were normal, but they had a stripe on them. That's why I chose those sweats because they had like not Adidas stripes with like three, but like imagine like one. It was like black with like one white stripe.
Oh my god,
I thought,
so edgy.
yeah, dude, I thought it was the coolest
Hashtag
shit.
different.
That was the coolest shit. And then I had like some dress shirts because I basically all my clothes was thrifted because that was the clothes I could get. And I had
Mhm.
like these dress shirts and I would cut off the sleeves and I thought I was so badass. I would wear it like
Oh, you are though, during that time, you are.
no,
That
I look at it
fashion,
now.
especially if you have, like, a tie or, like,
Dude, I
suspenders.
got a black tie just for it because I thought that was the coolest
Bro,
shit too. I was like, "Man."
so funny.
Okay, to
Yeah,
be
so I
fair,
think what people think is, like, degrading and whatnot is just different for everyone else. I think there's different stages, and I think it's the same, like, what other words? It's like otaku is considered bad in Japan,
yeah.
fujoshi is considered bad in
Yes,
Japan.
yes. That's like man, I get really sad about that because I don't know, I feel like fujoshi is, like, bad here too, which makes me kind of sad. I don't know, cause like, I've never really identified as fujoshi, whereas I know a lot of
Mhm,
people I'm friends with or even just know I do see as fujoshi, or
mhm.
I think it has the
Well, what is, like, fujoshi for, like, just clarification?
so
Because
fujoshi
I think I have, like, different mindset of what a fujoshi is.
I guess, like, the general idea of fujoshi is just, like, a girl who likes yaoi and, like, BL, like, reads it, watches it, is really into not girl, anyone who's into it, sorry. Anyone who's into it. It just a lot of the
No,
time
if
it
it's a
tends to be a
girl,
girl.
it's a fujoshi.
Yeah,
If it's
yeah.
a guy that's into yaoi or BL, it's a fudanshi.
Yeah, that's right, sorry. So we have fujoshi and fudanshi,
Okay.
but usually you hear, I feel like, fujoshi because it's more, prevalent, I feel, or at least
Mhm.
more openly prevalent to my knowledge.
I think so. I saw a lot of more fudanshis on TikTok coming out recently, and they're like, "Oh,
Oh.
you'll never take my yaoi away from me." So I'm like, "Wow, it's great that there's a space for people to feel comfortable to share their likes." Because I feel like I know like no guy in real life that would admit that they like yaoi. I feel like they do it just for like clout or to be special or whatever, but I don't think they actually like it
Man,
when you
that's
talk to them.
nice to see though, because like I wonder if it has to
Yeah,
do with
I think
like
so too.
people feeling more comfortable with like their sexuality and being like more open, like the fact that more people are able to come out as like LGBTQ, like gay or anything.
Yeah,
So maybe
I think
like
so.
liking those things, they feel more comfortable saying like I like these things without being like I guess ashamed of it, because it's nothing to be ashamed about, in my
I think
opinion.
so. And then also I think now that there are more like BL or yaoi themed shows like the TGCF
Yeah,
on Netflix that people have more access to it and being able to see and like, oh, okay, well actually this isn't so bad. The story's interesting and people are willing to give it a shot. Because I don't know about you, but I feel like every time I like how Netflix has this thing where the screen washes over and they're just showing you like, random advertisement of the shows they have.
yeah.
It always shows Heaven's Official's Blessing for me
Their
for some
algorithm's
reason.
too strong. No, their algorithm knows you.
I So I was like, "Dude, I don't know if it advertised like that to everyone, but it's always coming for my throat."
But I think
Hello,
it's
rewatch this, read watch.
I think it's good though, and almost in a way, because a lot of, especially the Chinese ones, since they have the whole censorship thing and they can't really openly show dame,
Mhm.
they have it a lot more subtle, or they really push the border to how much they can include without making it totally like gay because they can't
Mhm.
show that. So I always think that's really interesting because like I feel if you watch or follow the series, you know what they're doing is gay, but then it also opens like the doors to people who don't know will watch it and have no idea throughout the series that it is gay
Yeah.
because they it has to be that subtle. Like I remember for Moldavzisha, was it the Untamed?
Mhm.
That was the thing. I saw one thing where they showed it, I think to like their guy friends or their dad or something, these girls, and they were showing like these scenes of the two main characters, and then the guys were so into the story, right? Because that's a really good plot of like, oh no,
Yeah.
this person is into this girl, into this thing. There's only like a handful, not even a handful of girl characters in this show. It's like mostly guys. And the girls were just laughing so hard because they were like, they don't know that they're all gay for each other, and these girls are like side characters. And they're so like sure that like man, they're all fighting over this girl when it's really like this guy is like jealous because of this girl, and they're really just the guys are into each other. It was just so funny to me, but also really
It's so
cool.
interesting. Because I feel like everyone just automatically assume that everyone just like it's everything is heterosexual, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, "Oh, there's a boy, there's a girl that kind of shows interest. Okay, they're shipped, they're together." Whereas like I don't think people see it as common to see like boys ship with boys.
Mm.
And I think that's why like I don't know, as a fujoshi, I don't think I'm a fujoshi either because I enjoy reading a lot of BL and stuff, but I don't know if I would say I'm like okay, well, maybe I don't know.
I mean, off the
But
definition I see, I think they would say we're fujoshi, but like from my personal experience of what I've seen
mhm.
fujoshis as, it's usually very, very passionate about it. Very like ships everyone in a series, always trying to like get dudes together, like
Mhm.
always that. Whereas for me, when like I read BL, a lot of it's just like, oh, I like romance in general, and I like any romance story. I don't really think too much about the genders as much as I do about the stories. And I found,
Mm,
especially
yeah, yeah,
more
same.
recently, like it's not even that I like BL more, it's that like BL I feel has like approached the way romance is shown much healthier. I'm not saying in all series, of course. There are definitely so many tropes in BL that are like toxic, and that's important to be able to draw a boundary between fantasy and reality, right? Like fiction and
Mhm.
nonfiction. But it's like the whole thing of guy, like I think the very fact that you have two guys in a relationship shows like how much, I guess, misogyny we don't really think about, because the guys are treated equally. Like they're treated equally as people. Like they have lives, they have jobs separately. Whereas I feel as in a lot of regular like hetero romance, it's a lot of like the woman doesn't even have a personality. Like what reason does the
Oh my god,
CEO
like
like her
all the
for?
shojos, it's
Yeah.
like
I'm
I
like,
have nothing, and then this beautiful creature comes by and then changed my whole life, and now this has become my whole personality.
yeah.
And it's so common to like to have see such bland female characters in shoujo. But I think of like fujoshi. When I think of fujoshi, I think like people who consume exclusively yaoi or BL content
Mm.
because I'm a big like shoujo josei fan,
Mm.
and so
Same.
I know for sure I'm like, oh okay, when I'm like, oh, you like romance, me too, these are the series I like, and they're like would only recommend me yaoi exclusively, then I'm
Mm.
like, oh, okay, they're more like fujoshis.
Ah, that makes
Whereas like
sense. That
I
makes
feel like I'm
sense.
more of like a josei otome game type, where I also consume BL and yaoi as like the romance aspect of it, but
Yes.
it's not exclusively, I
Man,
think.
that's funny you bring up the Otome game too, because that reminds me the most of like the girls having no personality, like especially was
Oh
it
my god.
Amnesia? Oh my god.
So annoying, and
I
it's even
can't.
worse when it turns into an anime, and
Yes.
it's displayed even more because at least in when you're playing the POV in Otome games, then at least, you're like, "Okay, well, I'm making the choice."
I
But
feel
they have no personality in the actual shows because they don't actually make any decisions.
I think like okay, I get that they're trying to make it portray as like, oh, we want you to self-insert, right? As like the
Mhm.
main character. That's why we don't give them a personality. But I feel like it has the opposite effect because I
Oh
don't
my
know.
god.
Maybe it's because like I'm never very much into the POV sort of thing. Even in Otome games, I never really think of myself as like the main character. I just like playing the games to see the romance and like what's going on.
And the boys and the
Yeah,
stories and
yeah,
the theme. I'm really into certain themes, like, I
yeah.
like vampire
Oh
themes,
my
I like,
god, don't
very,
call me
like,
out.
Hakuoki themes, even though it's so bad sometimes, but the art is so nice because it's like, you have to think in art perspective, it's so hard to find good art and good drawn
Yeah.
male characters that a lot of times it's just like, we have to settle into these very mediocre, like, games where the female leads are literally just blank air, just, like,
There's
they don't
literally a
even.
piece of wood that just kind of they're a placeholder.
Yeah, but what's nice about, like, yaoi and, like, BL is, like, at least, like, the uke or the seme, they always have some kind of personality, and it's so nice to not only see them have their own individualistic, like, personality, but also to have, like, emotional vulnerability and kinda see
Yes.
what's inside their mind and how they're feeling, because I think that's very attractive to see for women, to kinda see, like, oh, that men have feelings and, like, to see that express.
No, I
Even
totally
if it
agree.
doesn't concern women, because let's be honest, there's no women in any of these yaoi universes
No, there's
usually.
like one or two women and they're definitely just a platonic friend or like they have no
Yeah.
relationship. Like you never see a hetero relationship going in here. And then maybe you're lucky if there's someone who's bi, but usually it's just gays everywhere. But I agree with
Yeah.
you with the vulnerability thing because it's very much like the guys, I guess the way we see like these romance is like in real life, you don't really see guys showing their emotions a lot. So like when you
Mhm.
read like BL a lot of the time, it's really nice just to see like, wow, guys can cry and guys have well, I say this a lot in this podcast, but it's not that I like crying guys. It's just that I think
I
it's
mean, no, I'm just kidding.
it's just nice to see
I
vulnerability, like people
mean,
being human, like it's so hard to connect with people when you feel like they're a piece of like wood or like a stone that you can't even talk back to or can't relate to because like we have feelings, we cry, we get mad, we feel these things, and it's not just like flowers and rainbows, like every romance. And when it's just flowers and rainbows, there's no depth, there's no reality, there's nothing to like pull you into it.
yeah. Also, like, I think a lot of times women are kind of sick of that. What is it? The toxic masculinity,
Mm.
of like just being this like shell, this hard and no emotion and very logic. And we're like, no, we don't actually want to see that, because if even if just reading novels, like heterosexual novels, I feel like I like really reading novels about they really talk about the men and their feelings, and like all of the, what is it? The novels have to have a lot of that, like the male's point of view, because I
Mm-mm.
don't really care about like the overall, so I just wanna see what in their perspective
It's
too.
true. Like there's so many. There was actually the one I told you to read, Under the Oak Tree, heterosexual, but I was
Oh,
really
yeah, I read
happy.
that one.
Oh, did you finish reading?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just the first book though, right? Second book hasn't been translated fully yet.
Have you read the manhwa?
Yeah, I'm up to date with the manhwa, but it's coming
It's
out so slow.
so
Yeah,
pretty.
I love the art and I love the
The art
story.
is so pretty, and I like that they're both, like, they resolve issues pretty quickly, because
Yeah.
I hate it when they drag, like, 20 episode on one misunderstanding. That's just so dumb, you know?
I mean, granted, they do have a lot of misunderstandings, but they do talk about them eventually. And I think I really love about the series is like the growth of the characters and how like one of them is like their communication gets better, but them as
Mhm.
people they get better. But on the note I wanted to bring it up to was the whole man point of view, right? You don't usually get the male point of view, but in this one there's a whole side story dedicated to the male lead and it's like his whole point of view from like when he was a kid to like growing up and how he saw her and all this. And I was like, I love it. I love seeing how they think and like what's going on in their head and how they feel and like not everything is sunshine and rainbows and like even though he's this really like mercenary knight, really
Like,
tough guy.
stoic.
Yeah, like huge guy, like to the Maha, where he's just like obnoxiously big compared to her, especially. But it's like even though he's the toughest guy, like in all the kingdom, he has all these feelings, and I love that they show that and that like
I mean,
he's
isn't that what, like, in normal relationships we look for to, like, figure out what's going on
you
in each
think
other's
that.
brain and, like, really get to know each other, like, on a deeper level?
You'd think that, but I feel like a lot of guys just don't. They just keep it in and don't talk about it because I don't know, maybe the way they grew up was like they were told that like you just don't talk about it, you just deal with it on your own, you bottle it up. But that's so unhealthy because when you bottle things up, they just explode later and it's really hard to deal with them because it's all coming out at once.
Yeah, so sad. I think also there's a difference too, like, similar to how I think yaoi, what I or at least what I look for in yaoi or BL is like the emotional and like all of these other aspect. I feel like I don't it's interesting to kind of see the opposite side of that, which is like Yuri,
Mm.
right? Which I feel like Yuri is all you would think that since it's girl on girl, it's like a lot more emotional and whatnot. But I find a lot of Yuris that I read is mostly just sexual,
Oh,
just like very
really?
face value. Yeah, like very just sexual scenes and them like, having like, tensions or whatever. But it's not as much romance. Or maybe I haven't read enough Yuri,
I mean,
but it's not enough romance and like story as much as I want.
I haven't really read a lot of Yuri, so I can't make a great comment on that. But I would say,
Mhm.
like, I wonder, like, the ones you've read, do you feel like they were written for men or for women or for both genders? Or, like, do you feel like there's a specific demographic that they're catering to?
Yeah, so I can tell just by the art style if they're very, like, anime do you know what I mean? Like anime, like, with the big eyes and, like,
Mm.
the small mouth, then I know it's more written towards the male gaze
Mm.
versus, like, a lot of more new manhwa yuris,
Mm.
they're written a lot more like, if you see very tomboy looking,
Mm.
like, female characters, then, yeah, I can tell it's more written for the female gaze.
I
So
think
it just depends, but for the most of the Yuris I've seen, for sure, it's written for the male gaze, at least in Japan
I feel like
manga.
from what I've noticed is like the yaois tend to be happier. Not all, definitely, because I've heard my share of sad and depressing ones. The yaois
Bruh,
are
no,
depressing.
there's so many toxic ones out there
Yeah.
too.
But, like,
Let's be honest.
generally, yaois are happier than yuris tend to be more depressing. Not all, of course, but general from what I've noticed given my limited reading of it. But I know the one I did like was, like, the Chinese one, Their Story. That one's, like, super
Yeah.
wholesome.
That's so cute. That's, like, the best ones I've seen too, but again, you see how it's, like, mostly Chinese or Korean
Mm,
that are done within more of the female
that's
perspective
true.
than it is in Japan. I think a lot of the doujinshi, the manga artists are majority men.
That makes sense. Man, I hope they, like, come out with more happier Yuri, because I would want to read more, but I'm not very into it. I don't know if it's because I'm just not into, like, girl on girl, or it's just the stories, or what exactly, because I feel like there just isn't that much of it in the first place either, especially comparatively to, like, yaoi.
Mhm, and I mean, the yaoi community, and it's, like, huge, ginormous, and I think I read somewhere on the internet how, like, BL and yaoi started in the first place was, like, obviously, people consume porn, women as well, but if they were, like it's some posts like, if women are on the train consuming porn
Mm,
and someone oversees it, then they
mm.
would assume that, she's, like, a super hypersexualized creature and then think it's okay to, like, make moves on her. Versus if she was reading, like, yaoi, then they're like, "Okay, well, let's just leave her alone." And it almost kinda like you're taking back your, like, autonomy on, like, what you can and can't consume, and
Wow.
how, like, that will change people's perception of you. Like, it was like, "Okay, well, porn is now, that's exclusively for women." It's
Well,
like a safe haven
guess I
almost
gotta
what it
read
feels like.
yaoi on the train now to get all the
I
the
saw
the
something like that
molesters away
online.
from me. Don't talk to me. I am definitely not sexual.
Yeah, but I think another emphasis I wanted to point out too is that not all fujoshis, fudanshis, or yaoi lovers, BL lovers like bring that energy to real life. Like
Mm.
that's a big emphasis because I know like whenever I say like, yeah, I like yaoi, oh my god, that's so cute. I like that, that shipping. They're so cute together. Immediately, like I feel like my guy friends would be like, oh my god, like, that's gross. Like, I hope you don't ship me. And I was like, bro, bold of you to assume that you are shippable
Dude, that's
material.
literally like when some person says they're like gay, and especially for like dudes I know, where it's like if you say you're gay, and then the guy's like, "Don't be gay with me," where it's like, why do you assume you're attractive enough that they would like you? Like, just because you're gay doesn't mean you like every guy. It's just like how if you're straight, you don't like everyone else of the other gender. You have standards, don't you?
Mhm.
Like, my
Yeah.
God, how entitled, how presumptuous. Like, literally, you saying that probably made you unattractive.
Yeah, just don't assume that everyone just ships everyone. I'm sure there are people out there who can't, tell the difference between reality, but for most of the friends that I know that are in the community, I'm pretty sure they don't ship real people because it's like, oh, I think they ship like idols.
Mm.
They ship like, people out of touch, but not like close friends. I don't think I've ever shipped that. I've never seen one of my guy friend be buddy buddy with another guy friend, and I'd be like, I hope they stick it in each other. Like that's so
Yeah, that's
weird.
so weird. I mean, I've
That's so weird.
joked.
I've never had that thought. It's so weird.
I mean, I've definitely joked and be like, if they act like that, and I'm like, wow, you guys are so cute. Like, I'll be like that, but it's definitely joking. And usually they play off on it, or I'm doing it because
Mhm.
they're being really uncomfortable and being like, I'm not gay. Why would you say that? Because, like, I want people to be comfortable in sexuality. Like, I feel like the people saying, like, oh, I'm not gay after you call them gay are just people who are really not comfortable in their sexuality. So they feel the need to be defensive and reassert to let you know I'm definitely not. I'm like,
Mhm.
just don't act that way and you won't
It's
be.
very telling,
Yeah.
on it very telling. I have this guy friend who, like, loves his guy friend, and I love to see that they love each other genuinely, and, like, even if
Yes.
they get girlfriends, they're, like, always like, "This is my homie," like, "He's always been here for me." Like, I love that. I hate the trope in real life of,
Dude,
like,
we
guys be having
support.
close guy friends, and then immediately when they get a girl, they're, like, gone from their friend group, ignore all of their friends until they break up, and then they go crawling back. Like,
I hate
actually,
that.
men and women, I hate that
I
trope. It's
hate
like you
that.
don't value your friends enough
Dude, it's
to be
not a
able to
trope, it's
maintain that
real
relationship.
life. That's
Yeah,
real
that's what I mean,
life.
though. It's like a thing that I really hate. But anyways, I have these guy friend groups where they're like their motto is like, "Do you really love your friends if you don't kiss your
If
your
you
homies?"
dude, that's like, "Do you kiss the homies goodnight?" Have you seen that
Yeah,
whole
do you
video? So
yeah.
good.
So it's like, they're so comfortable in their sexuality that they can do that kind of stuff, and it's not no big deal, like, nobody's being weird about it, like, don't be weird about it,
I
you
mean,
know?
it's only as weird as you make it out to be. I wish more
Yeah.
people were comfortable, especially guys, because it's like I feel like they don't get enough support in their lives
Mhm.
because they're so afraid of like how other people are going to see it. I mean, we all have that worry, right? Like
Yeah.
we're very aware of how other people perceive us and it's very hard to just blow it off and be like, "I don't care," as much as we say it.
Mhm.
So, like for guys to be able to show their support for one another is just so wholesome to see because you don't see it that often. Whereas for girls, it's like for girls when you see other girls, you're always like, "Oh, you're so cute. Oh my god, I love your dress." Or like we're always so free to
Mhm.
make compliments. Whereas how many times do you guys see guys compliment other guys like how they look or like how they're feeling today?
It's so true, and I think it's good to see that and try to have that promoted, and I think that's why I love series like Haikyuu too, right? The
Oh
show
my
shows
god,
friendship.
so
Oh, Haikyuu is so
wholesome,
good.
so
But I know whoever,
wholesome.
like, loves Haikyuu as, like, one of their top animes, I know that they value, like, teamwork and friendship and growth, like, all of that. I think those are really good traits to have, and it's, like, very, not toxic masculinity, it's, like, divine masculinity, like,
It's
what we should move towards. But I think as women, I feel like we have a lot of emotional supports from our friends, but I feel like guys growing up, like you said, they don't really have that support. So then when they have girlfriends who they feel like they can be vulnerable with, they open up and they feel understood and they
oh
feel
my
like they've,
god,
been real for the first time in their
yeah.
life. And that's why they cling on to that relationship because I feel like girlfriends are the only ones that I feel like men nowadays, the common men are like able to like express their feelings truly. And I wish they could have that with their friends as well. So it's not just like is the only. And I think that's why guys are like, I need a girlfriend, I need a girlfriend. It's like they're missing that emotional
No, I
connection,
agree. I
right?
totally remember
So
reading up this thing about it where it was like the reason like guys it was like the whole friendship thing like why it goes off the thing of like oh can guys be just friends with girls and it was like how girls always tend to think that like yeah it's fine I can be friends with guys like just friends but guys as soon as a girl like isn't interested in them they cut them off completely and it's like they
oh, I
can't just be
hate
friends
that.
because like in their mentality like a girl is basically like their personal therapist and they're being vulnerable with like their girlfriend and as soon as you can't provide that for them like you can't be that person they like cut you off because you're either that or nothing you can't just be a friend
Mhm.
and they don't have like outlets like it was the whole thing how like girls like yeah we can talk to our friends and we have different people to talk about things but for guys they don't talk to each other so they can only talk to like their girlfriend like you said and it basically
Yeah.
but that's so unhealthy too because your significant other is not your therapist like there's a
Yeah.
therapist for a reason and when you do that that burdens the other person so much and like that will honestly end in a toxic failure of a relationship like it's unhealthy
I
on both ends
I also think our society values romantic relationship at the very top, you know?
Mm.
Whereas people, as to just be balanced, they should have all relationship. Like they should have a good family relationship or their friends or their community or their like, hobby, interest. They should have a diverse thing. So then it's not like all of it is put on one person. Their physical,
Yeah.
their emotional, their mental needs on one person. It's a lot of burden. It's a lot to carry, like you said. So I think it's important to have that. It's like, oh, I love my friends, I love my girlfriend, but I also have time for myself. It's just
Yes.
a more balanced individual to not like seek that all out on one person.
And that's why it's so scary when you have friends who just disappear when they get in a relationship too, because I don't know for you, but for me, it's always like, why are they not hanging out with their friends anymore? Is it because their significant other is uncomfortable with that, which is a red
Mhm.
flag? Or is it because now they feel like they don't need friends because they're putting everything they would put into their friends into one person, which is not healthy for either of them? Like, what is the reason? Nothing about it is really good. But I'm always so happy when I have friends who's like they get in a relationship, but they still just kind of continue on as normal. It's like they have their relationship and make time to spend with their relationship, and then they also make time for regular relationships with friends and with family and like everything. And you can clearly
Mhm.
see the difference.
Yeah, and then they just seem more balanced because if you think about it, if you put all of that onto one person and you break up, it's over. Like your entire world feels like it's crumbling. You don't have a
Yeah.
hobby outside of this person. You don't have companionship. You don't have the physical aspect. You don't have the emotional aspect. You don't have your support system.
And that's when
So
you
it's
need
like
it the
your whole
most.
world, yeah, literally feels like it's breaking. But if you happen to break up with this person, you still have your friends, you still have like support, and you don't feel like everything is over and you're completely alone in this world? And I
Yes.
find sometimes people isolate themselves when they get into relationship, and then they like come like they basically have to reinvent themselves because it crumbled everything.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like I don't know. I see it happen so much, and like I've told people how much I hate it when people do that to like me, cut me off as a friend once again in a relationship, because it hurts because it's like I thought we were friends, and when you do that, it feels like you're not friends, even though you want to support them. And it's like sometimes there's just no reason why other than they got in a relationship and they're like, well, now I have this. It's like they found a better toy and now you're
I think of
obsolete.
it as I I oh my god, that's so sad to think about. I think of it as damn, sorry. I completely blanked.
No, it's
Never mind.
fine. Well, for me, it's like, okay, the reason it feels like that too is because, like, if they do break up, then what happens is they do end up a lot of time coming back to you, like, oh, now my new shiny toy isn't working anymore, right? It's broken. So now I'll come back to the toy I do have. And that's kind of like disrespectful to your friends, in my opinion, because it's
Ah,
like treating them like,
I
oh,
rem
sorry, go on then?
No, treating exact that's what I was gonna say. It's like a lot of times, both men and women, I find that people treat friends as means of convenience.
Mm,
And like, it's just convenient to have someone to do something with. And it's convenient. And I think definitely before the pandemic, people just like don't really connect with each other when they go out to eat or whatever. They just want someone there, like companionship,
mm,
convenience and companionship rather than actually like connection.
yeah,
So I find that like when they find other connections that are deeper, then they're just like, okay, well, it's not, it's, yeah, I don't need you anymore because it was just for convenience. And I just needed someone to do something with rather than I want to connection and build a relationship and build a friendship and build something meaningful with each other, putting the effort. And I've noticed that a lot more like because some people just like they're bored. They want something to do like, hey, I want to go watch this movie, but I don't want to go by myself. So I'm just gonna invite this one person.
toxic relationships, not cool. I really hope those people can reach out and find other like don't use people like that. That's messed up. Like people are
Yeah,
people, they have feelings too. So when you do that, it's hurtful. And
and
people
I think it's, like, so sad and disappointing, so I think that's why we revert to fantasy
mm,
anime characters
they
who
can't
have
hurt us. They
a
can
l
only
they
help
can't
us.
hurt us, yeah,
Wait, okay, that's a lie.
exactly.
That's a lie. That's a lie. We know that's a lie.
Okay,
They
okay,
can't
yeah,
hurt
okay,
us.
you're so right. Oh my god.
But they are gonna hurt us in that way.
Yeah, and at least, for the most part, we enjoy the stories, and there's other things, it's more than that,
Yeah.
even if they may hurt us.
They hurt us with their stories, but not because they personally attack us.
Okay, I think another thing why I think people are fudanshis is also, like, because these character we're not putting it POV style, then, like, these characters, whatever happens between these characters is kinda like something we can close our book to. Like, we're
Mm,
not personally afflicted, you know?
mm,
So it's kinda like being able to just see it from a third person point of view and see the story as is without, like, internalizing anything.
mm.
Because you have to admit, a lot of these stories get really, really dark. They have a lot of, r grape scenes.
Yeah, grape.
Um,
Grape in a
Grape scenes. So it's like to be able to see, like, the story, the impact, the terrible aspect of it without, like, internalizing it because I would really hate to see that in real life or, like, like, the idea of it in story too, it's, like, hard to swallow, but
mm.
because it's, like, in the character, we can kinda analyze it for what it is
I
instead of internalizing it, which I think is really painful
It's an
to be
objective
able to
view
do.
versus a
Yeah.
subjective view.
It's similar to seeing crime shows, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's just all fantasy, we can see that it's not reality, we can see how it could be reality and take aspects from it and learn from it, but we don't have to experience it ourselves.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's like a lot of anime in general, how we feel about or any storytelling, but these in
Yeah.
specific because I feel like they address a lot more realistic situations that go on in life too.
Yeah. And generally, I find the plots of Yaoi and BL a lot more interesting, a lot more depth, a lot more emotional than it is like, I think Josei is getting better, and
Mm,
I'm seeing a lot more strong female lead that I can, like, look up to, I think
mm.
it's like when shonen, there's a lot of strong male leads that we can look up to and we can, like, empathize for and whatever, but it's nice to see female leads be strong, and because we can't see that in a lot of more mainstream things, it's nice to be able to see that at least in yaoi and, like, being emotional, but then also strong and getting over issues
I
and
mean, I think it's almost like
trials.
even though yaoi is guys, we see ourselves in it as like females because of the vulnerability that like tends to be a woman trope in like fiction, but
Mm,
it's not a woman's trope in reality, like women are vulnerable and men are vulnerable, but it's just women tend to show it more because it's more socially acceptable.
that's so true.
But damn. So, well, I always say but damn. But you mentioned like a lot of like messed up yaois and like some of them I've read. I don't know. I feel like I always try, not that I try, but like I'm more interested in the ones that are more messed up because there's more to unpack there, like what's going on and why people feel the way they do versus like normal stories where it's just like very straightforward, like, oh, I like them, they like me.
Do they like me?
Yeah. 50 chapters later, do they like me? Like, come on, let's get with it. Come on.
90 chapters later, we get one kiss on the cheek scene.
Dude, you're triggering me for like Kimi ni Todoke. Oh
Give
my
me
god.
too, dude.
That I got so mad when they had the confession scene in that, and it was like they literally were in the classroom and they confessed to each other like I like you and I like you, and they still didn't get together because he was like, I don't. Both of them were like, I don't think their like is my kind of like, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me?
Oh my god, after so long. That's something it's strange, but I don't actually like it when characters get together in normal heterosexual, like, shoujo mangas.
Hmm.
It's weird. I don't actually like it. I like the process of the chase and, like, like, them, like, having angst and whatever it is, like, the in between.
Hmm.
But I feel like it's so common for me to, like, let's just say, like, Kaicho wa Maid-sama, right?
Hmm.
I feel like the character was so strong and, like, like, something to look forward to and look up to,
Hmm.
but the moment they get together, she displays very, like, weak tendencies, like, very, like,
Mm.
she starts to kinda almost feels like she loses her power and what made him fall in love with her and
That's
what made us all fall
true.
in love with her because and I'm not saying, like, femininity or, like, having all of those traits are weak, but it's like we almost kinda lose sight of who she was as a character
I mean, I almost
because,
feel
like,
like
they get
in a
together.
way that's kind of true to reality. Not to say that I like it, but like true to reality where like when people get in relationships and they kind of like mellow out and it could be both
Mm.
bad and good in sense for that depending on how they are. But like I understand what you're saying cuz I don't like either. But ironically, I actually tend to like them after they get together because I like seeing them being cute and fluffy, but I still want them to be
Yeah.
like a strong
Okay, I love
character.
those scenes, but I just see them, like, lose their
Yeah,
individuality,
from that point, I understand.
you
What it's
know?
like if I would hate it too when they like lose their personality and who they are as a person after they get together. Like, I mean, that goes back to like real life relationships too, where it's like people when they get in a relationship and they just like lose themselves, like who are like I hate it when people are in a relationship and they now are like one person, right? Like if you invite
Mhm.
one person, the other person has to come. I hate that. Or like if you invite one person, it's expected that the other person is like there as well. Or if you talk about something with that person, like if I talk to my friend about something and they say like, "Oh, if you talk about it with me, you should expect me to talk about it with my significant other." It's like, "No, I told you
Oh,
like this thing, not
no.
your significant other." That's really messed up in my opinion.
That's so hard too, because if you think about it, like, this is a person I didn't sign up to be friends with,
Yes.
and now they're a part of my life, and I have to deal with it, and I don't know what's going to happen when you break up, you know? And then afterward, I'm gonna have to, like, basically have a friend and, like, not have a friend anymore just based on your relationship. So it's, like, forced on friendship, but then also, like, you don't know if they're gonna stay.
Yeah.
So, like, do you build a relationship with them or you just lose a friend or you gotta fight in between them and, and pick sides?
They're
I
like
find that so
the significant other in
annoying.
law, but not legally, you know?
So difficult to deal with. I don't know. I sometimes feel like human relationships are so difficult. I just like to watch characters
That's
have
why we
relationships.
just watched it. It's so much simpler. It's like complicated plots, but at least it gets like dealt with in the end in some
Yeah.
way.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But like I
So
hate
have
that.
we decided, like, I guess we are fujoshi based on the definition of what
I
fujoshis
mean, I
are?
guess by the general definition we are a fujoshi, but like I wouldn't go with that label. I mean, in the end, what are labels, right? They're a way to make it easier to identify people, right? Like
Yeah.
any label is just a way for us to put someone in a box. And I mean,
I think also a label could also like help people feel connection with each other who
mm,
have maybe also identifying the same label, then it's like kind of building a community among like, oh, this common interest or common characteristic that we have together.
I think it's like true, but I still think it's kind of jarring because for me, even for things I like, I've noticed that if I try to join those communities, I still never really feel like I belong because I feel like I'm attached. Like I have to be that. That has to be my identity. And the thing is, like where I mentioned earlier, like people are so much more than one thing, you know. But when you
Mm,
join communities like that, I feel like it's very much a lot of people assume like that is your identity. You are that person. Like you are the anime fan. You are the fujoshi. You are this, and you're nothing other than that. And that's very jarring to me. I
I
don't
think
know if
that's
you've had
based
that
on other
experience.
people not being able to separate and then judge people based on their viewed perception of the said
Yeah, but I
community.
think it's very common when you join communities like that too for people to have that perception because like I feel like I would have that perception of people too, not intentionally. Like I had to do the work to be like, well, not everyone's like that. And I do like learning about people and I want to, but like when you come in with that label, like
I
saying you're
see.
that, like it puts it in other people's head like, "Oh, that's your thing." That's like almost why I hate introductions. Like people are like, "Oh, introduce yourself and say something about you," because I feel that's super jarring. Because one, like when I say something like that, I never know what to say. But I,
Same.
from the outside perspective, I feel like when I say that, that's what they're gonna know me as, because that's all they know about me, you know.
Mhm.
And
I
that
feel
could be the
like
farthest thing
maybe
from the
if
truth.
you think about it like as in terms of introduction, you can think of it as like, oh, it's a starting point for them to kind of like expand that aspect of you.
Mm.
And it's just like kind of like a starting point. Like maybe for me, if I introduce, I'm like, hi, I'm Kane and I like cats. So people, we can start talking about cats. And that's a topic that I like to talk about.
Mm.
And so we can have somewhere to start,
Mm.
because it's like, how do you come up to someone and just be like, well, I know nothing about you. Let's try to see where it works. Whereas, like, in a classroom, if you like, oh, these other people also like similar interests, I know I can go talk to them about it, and start somewhere. I think it's just, for me, I think of it as a starting point.
I can see that, but
Yeah.
I
And
still think I stand by like how I feel about for communities. That's just been my
that's
experience.
valid.
Yeah, yeah. Same for you, but yeah, I don't know. That's why I feel weird when I say like, oh, I'm Fujoshi or you're Fujoshi, because I'm like, we are, but then we also aren't. Because like I feel like I said before, where Fujoshi, I feel very much has that connotation of like being very much this is the only thing I like. This is all I do. I only look at this. And that's so not true for me and for you from what you've said. Where it's like
I guess that's true.
we're so much more than that. And like if anything, we actually like other things more. That's just like one of our many labels. But I mean that's just the whole thing with labels in general, right? Like I said, they're to help define who you are, but like I wouldn't want to use it as to describe myself. Like if someone said like, "Oh, you're into BL," I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I am." But when you call me a fujoshi, I feel like that becomes jarring in itself because now you're putting me in a box of
Mm.
saying that's like you are that one thing or you are this thing, and it's not that simple.
It's true, and I think, like, I saw an online forum, I think on my anime list, where they're like, "Oh, straight guys, would you date a fujoshi?" And, like, and I think it just depends. Even in some of the comments was just like, "Well, what do you mean by fujoshi?" Does she ship, like, real guys? And then or the majority of the comments was just like, "Depends on how hot she is." And I was
Like,
like, "What?"
uh,
It's like so I guess that label and that idea, even if it's derogatory, whatever it may be, it is all bypassed based on very shallow reasons.
yeah, that's what I don't know. So, I'm like, for what reason are you even asking that question? I guess it goes to in the end. Like, why does it matter to you? Like to me,
Yeah.
are you trying to talk to them about it? Like what about it is off-putting to you that they like seeing other guys? Like I feel like it's rooted in like a misunderstanding of why they even like it in the first place, and that says a lot about who you are as a person when you say something like that, you know?
Yeah.
As we've
I
discussed
think
in this
of it
episode.
I think of it as I would usually, if it's a group that I know is not as accepting of those terms, like fujoshi otaku, then I would definitely claim that I am because I
Yeah.
really like to like mess with
Stir the pot.
people's
Let's
heads.
go. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's
And
fight.
be like, oh, so you don't like it? Why don't you like? Oh, is it because you're frail? Oh, it's because you don't have a good understanding. Oh, okay. And then it's kind of like
Damn.
reopen that conversation up
Pulling out
because
the
I feel like
boxing
the
gloves.
people I feel like the people who are most likely closed-minded about, they just have a very shallow understanding, but they jump into conclusion and make judgment on things that they don't understand. And
Mm.
for me, it takes me a really long time to make judgment on anything. So I really like to test people and really like try to expand their,
No,
little
but I
thoughts
think that's
about
good
it.
because you're trying to open the conversation. I mean, you being like, what's the word? I want to say inflammatory, but that's not the word. You're doing it in a more forward fashion, but I do think it's good that you are opening the conversation because, like, it's good to ask why. Like, always why. Because it's never as simple. Like, if anything, they'll be like, I don't know why. Then you can dig deeper into it. And if they actually have a reason, you can also dig deeper into that. And that's what's interesting because everyone has different reasonings, you know? Minds are
Yeah.
complicated.
And I also think it's important for people to like, I think it's good because I don't really care about judgment and people can say whatever they want, I don't really
Mm.
care, honestly, that's almost sociopathic of me that I really
No.
don't care about other people's
I
opinions
don't know if it's
of
sociopathic
me.
as much. Like maybe you've just matured past like middle school. Actually, no. Maybe we've come full circle. No shame.
Yeah, and now I'm shameless, like, I remember when I was in Japan, I was teaching, English, and a lot of my students were, like, 50, 60-year-old men, and whenever I say shamelessly I'm an otaku, they're like, "Oh, okay, you don't," they're like, "Oh, you don't seem like the otaku," and I was like, "But I am, I like anime, and that's okay," and they're just like, "Oh," and it kinda like every single one of them were just like, "What is wrong with this girl?"
No, it's
But at
like
the
you're
same time,
breaking
I
their
hope
thoughts.
yeah, yeah, break that stereotype, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, and everyone in the West, like, love anime," and they're like, "Wow, really?" Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah," and so we're okay with being called, like, otaku, or we're okay with, like, liking anime because I think there's a certain perception in Japan, and I think the anime otaku culture is different in Japan, just like how it is the cosplay culture,
Mm.
because in Japan, it's more cosplay is more associated with gravure,
Mm.
gravy,
Gravy.
gravier,
Oh
modeling.
yeah, that gravy. You
Gravy.
see that new issue of that gravy mag? Man, that was some hot stuff, man. It was literally steaming straight out the pot.
Yeah, and then I remember it's like you know how it is in America, like, if you go to a convention and you cosplay, you usually get in contact with a photographer and they'll show you your pictures afterward. That's not the case in Japan. If you go and there and they take pictures of you, it's only mostly for their private collection.
Dude,
So, it's like you're giving them content almost,
I
and so they
remember
have this perception of what cosplayers are like in Japan versus in America.
I remember seeing when I was like at a con there, and then you have like one girl cosplayer, and you just see all these dudes just like what's the word
All
fawn
the
like
angles.
yeah, well, all the angles, but there's just like tens on photogs that are all dudes just taking pictures of this one girl in this like scantily clad probably outfit usually
Yeah.
cosplayer, and it's like oh my god, this is so intense. I mean, I guess that happens in America too, where like if there's a good cosplay, like a lot of photogs flock, that's the word, flock to go like take pictures.
Mhm.
But I feel like the way you see this in Japan, it's so different because you can tell like the intent. I mean, no, it's wrong to say that the intent is totally different because it definitely happens in America too. But like the
Yeah.
way you see it, it's like the majority of the intent, if not all, is completely different. Like you're probably never gonna see these photos. These are definitely like what you said for their personal collection.
Yeah, and I it wasn't like I didn't make that connection until, like, I was there in a cosplay, and I was like, "This is weird, I've never talked to them." Because usually, like, when you take pictures with someone,
Mm,
they'll give you their business card, but these people, no, they never want to be known, and
mm.
they never want to know like,
Yeah.
let people know that they've been there or,
Yeah,
like,
and
have
a
these
lot of times they're
pictures
like
with
wearing
them, so
masks and
it's so
stuff too.
suspicious. Yeah, it's so suspicious, and
Don't
also,
be
like, the
suspicious. Don't
dynamic
be
between
suspicious.
cross-players and cosplayers are completely different.
Oh?
Whereas, like, cross-players, I find a lot of them go there to meet their friends and to have group, like, meetups and fill up, like, all of the character roster and then, like, take group photos together, like, that's their thing, which is a little bit more similar to how it is in America.
Mm.
And then the female cosplayers, if they go by themselves or, like, with one photographer, usually it's just there to kinda, like, make connections, hopefully, like, get job opportunities, but a lot of
Oh.
them that I know eventually does go into, like, Gravure or, like, try to sell their own cosplay picture book.
Mm.
So it's, like, different. Like, I think a lot of cosplayers I find go there to get community, to meet up with friends that they've been friends with online for however long, you know?
Mm.
It's more of that connection, so it's just interesting, like, how the dynamic is different where and then that really shows, what the priorities are.
I mean, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't even think about cosplayers that much because I guess there's actually a lot more girls cosplaying as guys there too, right? I mean, I feel like in
Mhm.
America that happens, but when I think of cosplay, I usually think of like guys cosplaying as girls.
That's showing up a lot more now too, and I'm really shocked. I see it a lot more. I'm like, "Wow, that's a really pretty girl," and then I could just tell by either the hands or the
Yeah,
legs. I'm like,
it's the
"That's
legs,
really
man.
buff."
I don't know. Okay, some of the dudes have really skinny legs too, though. So
Oh, okay, yeah,
sometimes
you're right.
sometimes it's like I don't know, man. But then it's like then they never try to speak, and you're like, okay. I feel like
Yeah,
that's to
and you
tell
try to
that.
talk to them and they
Yeah,
just ignore you because they don't wanna, like, review it.
yeah.
It's so funny. I think that's cool. I think it's cool to see, and again, I think it's one of those things where I don't think girls mind because we love seeing, like, guys in these kind of positions or, like, vulnerable positions where
That
they're
could
just
be.
being expressive or
Please
emotional
don't
or,
take this out of
whatever.
context. Not those kind of positions.
No! Nobody was thinking that except you, okay?
No, I swear I'm not alone.
No, my god, nobody was thinking that. So strange. Anyways, hope that kinda, like, gave, you guys some perspective on, like, fujoshi culture, I guess, BL
Yeah,
culture,
or like
and how it's, like, very, nuanced and,
it's
it's
not
more than what people perceive this as.
it's not as simple as what you normally just see, I guess, posted online. Like it's a spectrum, right, for everyone. And
Mhm.
I don't know, like we said before, like we made this podcast to show perspectives that we hadn't really seen in other people, and that was like one of them that we feel like we both read like BL, but we never really felt like we identified specifically as like a fujoshi or what's commonly known as it. So, thanks for joining us this episode. I'm ISO.
And I'm Kane, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.